This call is for all of our premium and free members of urlaw.org. Again, I thank you for being here. Today is October 30th, 2018. We've got a real exciting call tonight, a special purpose call, special subject call. Before we get started, I just want to give you our common disclaimer that you can read in full on the website. But the bottom line is we're not here to give you legal advice or tell you what to do. We're just here to have a free and open discussion about certain legal matters and to share things that we have found to be effective, and try to give you straight and honest information about what it takes to deal with your legal matters in this world. And it comes from a very deep level. We all need to understand these things at a much, much deeper level than obviously you've ever been taught in the public school system. And so tonight I just want to make a couple of quick announcements, and we're going to get right into it. By the way, if you are a premium member, you all have access to our Telegram chat room. I've got information that's on the premium member page. You go there, and if you're in Telegram, you have the chat tool available. You'll be able to answer some questions there or ask questions there during the call. That'll be our only format for asking questions. So, and you have to be in the group chat. Don't ask me individual questions. I won't be able to keep up. So it's got to be in the group chat. If you don't know how to do that, that's on the premium member page. It's been there some time, so you should already know how to get in there and get it open and get it turned on and activate that. Otherwise, just because of the nature of the call, we'll have too many people to try to open it up for questions. It'll just get too messy. It's a good problem to have, but it's also a problem in trying to do questions. And just a couple of reminders of basic tools. And tonight, more than ever, this tool becomes relevant. But remember, some of the basic tools I think you need to have is you know how to have some legal dictionaries. You've got to have some basic tools like that. Be able to look up definitions. I get asked questions all the time. What does this mean? What does that mean? I said, do I look like a dictionary? No, go look it up, And I typically don't answer those emails even when I get asked, because it's impossible to answer all the emails I get. So you got to keep the questions relevant to something we can actually help you with and relevant to membership content and materials, because it gets too broad otherwise. But remember, you all have to have that how to win the lawsuit without a lawyer, because it's a good basic course on how to set up and either answer or defend a legal attack, okay? You got to have that. That's just fundamental. I mean, you can try to use sovereign methods, but I got to tell you, ultimately, most of the time that loses. Knowing how to use their tools is the key. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So we're going to talk about using the actual law and the tools at your disposal to not only deal with your legal issue, but also how to go on the offense. And you guys have heard me that have been premium members a long time. We've been talking a lot about going on offense and constantly having the mindset to go on offense. Why? Because if you only show up with your defense, you lose, period. End of story. You all need to use that link that we have on our website, urlaw.org/JD, urlaw.org/JD. And that'll get you access to that course for less than a half hour of lawyer time. You can have a full course on how to set up and run your own lawsuit, because you'll have to know how to do that with the content we're talking about tonight. And that's a good foundational start. We're also going to give you some resources that you'll have access to. Just those who are premium members will have this contact information and have the ability to contact our guest tonight via the website on the premium member page. Again, if you have questions, use the Telegram app in the group chat area. There's a link for that on the premium member page. Stick to that and just keep the questions about our content. All right, tonight we have Steve Emerson. We met recently. I was very impressed with what Steve has to say about how to exercise your rights in the law. And I really like the fact that he's going the direction that we seem to be going, which is to move as much as we can toward just getting a good understanding of what the law is, what the procedures are, how to get the information, and how to win your case. This is somebody who's, walked the walk. This isn't somebody with a theory here. It's really, you want to be able to stand up and exercise your rights and stay off defense and go on offense and stay away from useless theories. You're about to hear this. So I hope everybody here, because I already know this, Steve goes really fast, and you're going to have to keep up. That's just too bad. You want to run in this race, you better get up to pace. So take good notes. The audio replay will be available. I'll make it available both the premium and free member areas, but only his contact information will be in the premium member area. So, with that being said, Steve, are you there?
I am here.
You are here. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to be here. We really appreciate it. Apologize for the delays we had with the audio difficulties. Hopefully that goes away. We never can control these conference call systems, but we'll do the best we can. But I'd like you just more or less to first tell us, how did you basically get interested in the law and what was going on that brought you to learn what you've learned?
Wow, that's a hard one, man. It seems like ever since I can remember being a little kid, nothing seemed to make sense to you, And as you just got older and things started coming along, you just sort of question things in a common sense way, and you didn't seem to get the answers that made any sense to you. So, the old deal, we're all brought told we live in this free country and everything, but when you start getting to an age where you can exercise those rights, eventually you have some clown with a badge and a gun claiming you can't do it, or some bureaucrat claiming you have to have permits or pay taxes. There's just things that made no sense at all if you're a free man living in a free country. So, just driver's license issues. I mean, I was racing dirt bikes and go-karts and small automobiles by the time, I was 11, 12, 13, 14 here. It's like, what do I need a driver's license for? I could outdrive most adults, but my old man wouldn't let me take any of the cars out to take my girlfriend out, unless I had a driver's license. So that's how I got caught up in that, But when you ask Dad questions, you got no real answers, and of anything that made any sense. Even my first little job, when I got this job at a little gas station, a convenience store gas attendant thing when I was like 17 or 18, and, I'm filling out these 10-4 and W-40 forms, and, I'm asking Dad what this is all about, and he couldn't tell me, and, when you're a kid, Dad knows everything. How's an airplane fly? Well, the airplane goes underneath the wing, goes to the top. He give you detailed instructions how the airplane flies, why you pay taxes, get driver's license, and do these things. He had no answers for. So, me being me, I got to know, right? So I just started looking and reading and asking questions as much as I could, and just, got access to the law. And the law is defined as 4 things by the law: court rules, case law, statutes, and what am I missing here? Constitution. There you go. Those are the 4 things that the law considers being law. So if you ain't reading that, you're not reading the law. That's kind of where it goes, And to get access to the law, you need access to the legal encyclopedias and the litigation manuals, and just start reading these things. Paralegal courses, start grabbing those and reading the stuff, and reading lots of cases on the subject matter of whatever you're interested in to get a full understanding of exactly how the law interprets the process and how the process has to be constitutionally applied, Once you get that part figured out, the rest is a breeze,
Okay. So, I think you've had some specific experiences in applying some of this in terms of, kind of what forced you into like having to dig in and learn this, and then you got some good results, it sounds like. Can you tell us about any of the types of matters that you've had to deal with?
Well, code enforcement, stealing automobiles and people's boats off their property has been really a fun ones to do. The property tax stuff and the way they're applying that and using it to steal homes from people, we've had a lot of fun with them on that stuff because nothing allows them to do that. Laws aren't there to allow government to steal from the people they work for, okay? That's not how the American system works on paper, but nobody's reading the paper. We live in a country where people grow up in it and have no idea what it's all about to be one of the sovereign people of the United States. That's who you are, whether you like it or not. You're one of the sovereign people of the state, especially if you were born here. If you're a native-born American, which means anyone born here, okay? Even the founding fathers were native-born Americans. I know they've taken that word and make it sound like it applies to just Indians, but if you're born in the United States, somewhere in one of the states, you are considered a sovereign-born American, okay? So that's who you are. That means you're the king. And that means all these other idiots, from the president down to the dog catcher, are your public servants. They work for you. They're not there to terrorize you, steal from you, and make your life a living hell, which is what they do today because it's, like I say, we grow up in a country where no one knows what their rights are, no idea how the court systems work, no clue what rights are, no idea what taxation is, and people want to know why the country's all screwed up and nothing makes any sense and nothing's working properly, But you got to remember the people that work in the system are just as ignorant to what's on paper as the average everyday guy that walks the dog by your house. He has no clue what his rights are, no idea how the court systems work, and you're not going to get that from watching L.A. Law and Boston Legal and Judge Judy off the TV. That's completely backwards. It's not even close to the written procedures, rules of court, rules of evidence, and just the litigation guides that direct how these processes have to work to be in compliance with the legal system and the fairness of the, due process procedures, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you say to people, who've obviously, I'm sure there's a whole lot of people on this call who've been through a lot of what I call patriot websites and those things. And, obviously they've been, they're seeking the information, but they're getting thrown off in left field because of some of that kind of information that's out there. First of all, I think everybody's convinced that they aren't the sovereigns, therefore they need to try and go become one.
Well,
which is an impossibility.
Well, that's what I mean. People in this country are not taught what it is to be an American. If you understand that, you already know. You don't have to correct anything. You just go after your public service for violating the whole ideology of their existence, okay? I mean, they're violating your rights. They're violating tons of criminal statutes. It's what they're doing, from false securities to fictitious obligations to falsifying their records and all kinds of things they're doing to get where they're going. And once you understand the criminal code and understand how to prosecute, then it's a wonderful thing. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like if you could start with writing a good affidavit of what they did and know how it applies in the law, and go after a criminal complaint, you can get a lot done. We've had somebody recently contact me last night, and that's what she did. She was playing defense, tried all the things, I'm a woman, I'm the man who blows in the dark, And I said, wait a minute, what have you done in the law to just point out their defects and go after them? And she started researching that, and she got back to me just last night, as a matter of fact, pointing out that all of her cases have been shut down, it's over, and now she's going after them for damages. So, she figured it out. She took it and went on offense. So that's what you got to learn how to do.
Well, yeah, even a good defense is an offense. Just like a football game, even you try to play both sides of it, and you almost have to be really good at doing what you do. But it all depends on the case. Every case is different. They all have their own little fingerprint, you might say, their own little that makes them a little different than all the rest. So. And that's really, the whole goal of this thing is learning how to do it the way the lawyers should be doing it. Even the lawyers aren't taught properly. When you look at I won't say that right, because really when you do read their books and stuff, it is taught properly, you might say, in the books, and from lawyers that I've known over the years, they kind of admit that when they got into their private practice right away, they got lawyers telling them, we don't do that. We'll be there all day if you fill out all these forms. Just do this one. I've seen judges and all kinds of people doing that, prosecutors, and that's kind of stuff that you can use to put on a basically good defense with an offensive touch to it, you might say, showing that the other side ain't even doing it right, whether it's an arrest. You weren't brought to a first appearance, which nobody really is anymore. They just throw you in the jail and you make bail or bonds, and if you do have a first appearance, a little video crap or some 30 seconds where the judge reads the charges off to you. Well, pursuant to the rules of court, you're supposed to have almost a little mini trial where you bring your witnesses, the cop brings his witnesses, and then the judge makes the determination of whether there's probable cause exists to then execute a warrant. Then you go to the jail, get fingerprinted, and place a bond. But they skip all that. Otherwise, the cops can't arrest 5,000 people in every city and county every day if everyone had to go off the off the road, so to speak, for an hour or two to do this hearing thing, which is why our system's broke and the jail systems are nothing but an industry now. It's a profit-making activity, which that's not how it's supposed to work in the land of the free, home of the brave. But the people have let themselves get so dumbed down to what it's all about and stay completely willfully ignorant to how the system works. Like we were talking earlier, you can talk to most people who are into sports, and they'll tell you anything you want to know. Dan Marino, how many field goals he did, whatever, how many passes. I'm not much of a ball and stick sports guy, but you know what I'm getting at. But when it comes to the Constitution, rules of court, things like that, they're completely clueless to it and want to know why their rights are being violated, why nothing makes any sense, And if you don't have the owner's manual and not reading it, then there's no way you're going to get the system to work. Founding fathers clearly set the Constitution up to where the people can run the government. But we're not doing that because, A, we're not taught how. B, the so-called powers to be don't want us to know how because their organized crime syndicate that we all call government can't run the way it's running if the people just sit on their ass and watch TV, which is what they do.
Sure. I mean, they're told, right now, of course, we're coming into an election cycle. And of course, everybody's arguing and saying, well, everything will be fine if you just elect these people in the office. And I keep saying, no, your redress for grievance of rights is the court. That's where you get something done. That's where you make a change in your life, not by going down just to the voting booth. Okay? That's just to elect one bad choice over another sometimes. And, that's not where the answer is. But yet all their time is focused on this debate, And it gets to be a little bit silly when we realize that after every election nothing really changes. And then we sit there all frustrated, and, of course, people are getting more and more angry, and they're using social media to vent, and it's like they're just programmed to fail.
Well, that's a very good way of putting it, and that's exactly what do you think the American education system's all about? I mean, it's to make sure that you fellows an American and just be, good workers, and that's all they really want. They want you to a sixth grade reading level where you just know the top 500 words. All you do is the Rockefeller, I forget what they called it, there's some Rockefeller manifest that's what they laid out in the early 1900s was to pretty much just get good workers. They don't want educated, free-thinking people. They don't make good slave workers, if they think for themselves, So that's why they don't teach you critical thinking skills. They don't teach you what common sense is. They just got you to go along with everybody else, whether it makes sense or not, because all the other monkeys do it, so it must be okay,
Exactly. And then, of course, their answer is, and in regards to law, don't worry about that. Just get a good lawyer.
Well, once again, how do you know what a good lawyer is then? If you don't know what he's supposed to be doing, how do you know if he's good or not, And like I say, the phone book doesn't have the good ones, the bad ones separated. So if you don't have any understanding what your lawyer's supposed to be doing, it's almost like the old story where you got the 17-year-old girl going to college, daddy's credit card, the car's not running right. He takes to a mechanic sees this girl coming, and she don't know diddly about automobiles, so he gives her all kinds of crap. The reason why it won't start, you need transmission, $4,000. So she calls Daddy. Daddy says, okay, get a new transmission. And all he did then was probably replace some ignition parts to get the start, but he just took $4,000 from this girl because she had no clue how her automobile operates, how it works, just some clue. I mean, there's no way they could pull out on most guys, go, hey, well, how would a transmission not working make the car not start, But, of course, a girl may not have a clue what the transmission is or what it has to do with the function of the automobile's engine running properly, right? So, therefore, they take advantage of them. That's pretty much what the legal system's been doing with the American people for at least the last 50 years, maybe 60 or so, something like that,
Yeah, pretty long. I kind of credit it going all the way back to almost to the 1930s where there was a lot of changes in the courts, and they went as far as taking the foundations of the law out that they teach in the law schools, and now they just teach procedures. And you can go back and talk to old law professors. They'll tell you when they started changing the rules. And basically they turned it into one big business for lawyers, about lawyers, and by the lawyers. They're not all bad people. I know many of them are great guys, but they don't even know half the time. I mean, maybe more than half the time. They just don't really know.
Yeah, they really believe what they're doing. They really believe what they're doing is their job. Just like the people downtown. The code idiot really believes he's supposed to be at your property messing with you. The tax morons really believe they're supposed to be levying a tax on your home. They really believe what they're doing is what the law says they're supposed to do because everyone's been paying it. No one's getting hardly any beef out of it. And we're totally disassociated. So it's not even any TV programs. When did you see Andy Griffith have to go take a home from someone because they didn't pay a couple $1,000 property tax, Or Bill Cosby, or pick any TV show. You can just see how this is like something we all do, but nobody talks about it,
Mm-hmm.
And that's the perfect way to keep people in the dark.
Yeah, absolutely.
But once you start reading the tax code and do the legal research on what taxation is pursuant to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 of the Federal Constitution, that clearly limits all taxation to pretty much duties, imposts, and excises. That's all commercial activity. That's the only function that anything that calls itself government in this country can do to fund its operations. And when you read the Federalist Papers, they made it clear that they weren't sure if that'd be enough money to fund things. They thought, well, that might not be enough. But if we tax the backs of the labor of the people and their property, then there'd have been no need for the American Revolution. That's pretty much what they're saying. So that tells you there what the whole idea, why the Revolution was fought. And that's the thing. Once you understand that, the rest makes even more sense that there's no way what goes on now can be not only constitutional, but lawful.
Yeah, and then they try to, I think obviously a lot of people get caught up in the whole tax picture is they don't understand the difference between commercial activity and your own labor. And then, of course, Congress says we can regulate, interstate commerce, and they have this way of weaving people into that system. But the simple fact is it's still limited to certain regulated commercial activity, of which I'm not engaged in. I don't know about you, but yet we get suckered into thinking, but yet it all applies to all of us because we don't really know how to read what it says.
Well, but nobody just reads it. That's the key. If you just start reading, I'm not saying you're going to get it the first read. I mean, I probably read the Florida Revenue Code 400 times and the Internal Revenue Code at least probably about 20 or 25 times over the years just to get a grasp what this thing's all about, how it has to work in order to, like I say, be compliant with the Bill of Rights, things like that, And when you read it, we have a wonderful tax code. Is what you do see is how they're perverting it. They're mutilating it to get it to apply to things that it's not supposed to apply to, and that's what they're doing, really, when it gets down to it, which means they're violating all kinds of criminal statutes, like we discussed earlier. They're falsifying records, they're creating fictitious obligations, false securities, which are all federal crimes for 10 years in prison, $100,000 fines. In other words, here's the way you got to look at it. If I can't do it to you and you can't do it to me, then how can your public servants do it to you?
That's a great way to put it.
Well, that's all there is to it. I can't tax your home, and then if you don't pay me whatever, I can't just create a deed to it and sell it to all my buddies and now come with guns and take it from you because you don't own it no more, okay? Without due process of law. That's what they do here in this state. That's what makes them so easy to pounce on. And in order to shut you up, they just pay you a bunch of money and give you your stuff back to shut you up and make it go away. You got to sign all this disclosure stuff. They seal the case, which they're going to do. You're not going to be able to stop that. All you can do is hope to fix it for yourself and hope your neighbor and your brothers and sisters all start reading the law, start figuring out how to do the same thing and go after these idiots for doing the same illegal crap to them. And that's what the system the Founding Fathers gave us, and that's why they don't teach it to us. They don't want us to know how to use this stuff. And we have a wonderful system of law. Problem is nobody's reading it. No one's forcing the public servants to follow it. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's not the law, it's the misapplication of the law. They put it in the law telling you what to do and what not to do, what they can do and what they can't do. But we don't read it from the standpoint of, well, this IRS code doesn't apply to me. Well, that's not, nobody should say that. It just might. But the issue is, are you engaged in that business, or that trade or business, or it's going to be reminding me of that word, and there's a specific activity that law covers. It doesn't apply everybody to everybody the same way. It's has to be that certain commercial activity. And it is narrowly defined, but you won't hear that if you ever get in court. They'll say, "Well, everybody needs to pay their fair share."
Well, yeah. And once again, they can't prove that. Where in the Constitution say anything about the people paying their fair share? When you read Hell versus Hinkle, it's a perfect case. Hell versus Hinkle makes it perfectly clear that the people owe no duty to government whatsoever. So you can't just be a taxpayer because you were born and you got a great paying job or a crappy paying job, and God forbid if you own a little meager 3-bedroom house with a 2-car garage and maybe a swimming pool if you're lucky. There's no way you can just be a taxpayer because you're exercising your right to work and your right to own property. First, you have to understand what taxation is. In order for a tax to apply, you must first be a taxpayer by statutory definition, which means you pretty much have to be a business owner. You have a business license, corporate charters, import-export licenses, all that kind of stuff. First you have to be a taxpayer. Then there has to be returns filed by the taxpayer before there could be an assessment. And when you go after them for what they do to the people, they have none of these documents. Okay, first they can't prove you're a taxpayer by any stretch of statutory definition. There's no returns filed by you on your property, your homes and stuff. And when you ask them for assessments, but pursuant to the statute description, they have zero. And they get away with this, been doing it for, I don't know, at least 50, 60, 70 years that I can see. My grandfather told me we lived out in the country. He never paid no property tax until he moved into the city, into a suburb somewhere, and even then it was only like $25, $30 a year, If that was the case, I doubt I'd ever paid any attention to it. But when they started getting up to $3,000, $4,000 a year, it's like, why the hell am I giving these morons this money? And just started reading the tax code and looking into it, see how I would have a duty or be liable to pay these people a damn dime because I have some place to eat, sleep, crap, and poop in, okay? There's no way. That's all rights and enjoyment stuff. I'm exercising no taxable privileges. There's no income created here, no merchandise, no inventory, none of that stuff the tax code talks about. And nowhere is there a clear definition of taxpayer being an everyday man or woman that owns property and has a job. They'd have to be defined that way for them to use the tax code that way. And it's not like that at all. But like I say, no one knows what taxation is. You have no idea how to ask any credible question to these people based on the tax code if you're never reading the damn thing.
No doubt about it. If you can't read it, it's certainly not going to work to your advantage. That's the bottom line. If you don't know the rule book and you're playing Monopoly, you're going to lose. Just that simple.
Yeah, it's like playing strip poker with the pretty blonde girl with the great boobs and butt, She don't know, oh, no, sweetheart, that my two of a kind beats that straight, And if she goes, okay, next thing you know, she's naked and you're all sitting there laughing, So that's I look at that as how the American people are. They don't read nothing. They go and ask the public servant. Well, tax collector says I owe a tax. He ought to know because he's the tax collector, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I just can't believe how gullible and stupid my fellow Americans are to go along with this crap and fund their destruction, so to speak. It's just really sickening and Orwellian in a way, Yeah,
it very much is. I get a lot of questions from members, and quite often one of the questions is, well, you said to go tell them this, or, they'll just go off and say, well, I asked the attorney. I said, wait a minute, is this the opposing attorney? Yeah, he said, he told me this is BS or whatever. And I said, you're asking your opponent for the rules. Why don't you look them up yourself and to correct him?
Well, and once again, people go in and play this game, and never look at the rule book, never do any research at all. They just go in there and think they're going to do their Judge Judy thing, just flap out their crap and see who tells the best story. That is not how the court systems work in this country. They never have, never will, and never can, okay? There has to be substantive evidence to support whatever the deal is, charges, or whether it's a civil suit that public servants are doing something not properly, or they're not doing it right, or they're somehow perverting it to get it to do things that are unconstitutional. If you don't know how to put those elements together in a complaint, which is really what you need. You don't need affidavits. You need complaints. Civil rights complaints is I found the easiest thing to do because all you got to do is prove rights are being violated. Compared to if you do RICOs and Bivens suits, those are more code-oriented, and that's okay, too, if you have what it takes to put the code sections together and play it out the way the prosecutors normally do them. And that's a neat way when you look when you go to like read these things that prosecutors do. Some of them are pretty good at laying out these things, which lots of times you can kind of take that and apply it to what the public servants are doing, So that's a good way to teach yourself. Man, a friend of mine there in Oregon made it clear probably years ago that until you read about 5,000 cases, you probably have no business being in a courtroom, and read the case law, read the litigation manuals, understand what discovery is, what interrogatories and admissions are, how to do depositions if you need to, what questions you need to ask, what information you need from the other side to win your case, just like the jurisdictionary thing you were talking about earlier. Graves got a great course, but it's very kindergarten. It's not on the level of federal court. It's more small claims, little things, but that's where you start. Just like kindergarten. When you start there, they teach you 1 + 1, right? You don't start out with 12 times 12, so you got to work your way up, and even the dumb lawyers have to go to school for at least 4 years, so why would you think you're going to learn it any faster,
Well, absolutely, but the people need to know something as simple as just starting with a good foundation like that is the key, because it's going to keep you in bounds. It's going to keep you from the basic rules of the game. You may have to go do a lot more research and pull a lot of data and information in, but if you don't start with that foundation, I think it's one of the best foundational tools to use. Then whatever happens, I mean, I had a discussion today with a friend who's got a lot of experience, but he couldn't stay in bounds. I was just like, hey, just follow this, file a motion for that. Move that court. Tell them what you need, and then give them do you remember to just schedule a hearing? Oh, no, I didn't do that. Well, that's their procedure. It's not that hard. And then suddenly, the whole thing should change, because now they see he's coming in. He's going to hold them accountable. He's going to pull them in, not they pulling him in.
Well, like I said earlier, the key is
your counter. That's the key.
Well, like I said, the key to this is learning it the way the lawyers should be doing it is really what you need to do. Know how to set the record in the trial court for an appeal, and that's making a record of the errors. An appeal is not where you're just rehashing the trial. It's where you're showing how the lower court erred in such a way it deprived you of a fair outcome to your hearing. That's why you want to know how to make a record. Like I think Graves discusses that too, how to make a appealable record in the case to where you'll basically win it on the appeal or get it remanded back to where the appeals court's going to tell them to do it right. And if you really got a great case to start with, or there's no evidence that you're the defendant, then chances are the state, in this case, would drop their case because they're not going to retry it. They didn't have any evidence to start with. That's why your appeal works, so they'll just dump everything. Then you get to go sue them in a federal court for malicious prosecution and false imprisonment if you're arrested. All that stuff comes into play then, where you can go after them for it, And that's how we're going to get our public servants to stop doing this stuff. They're going to tell these pigs quit, arresting these idiots with no cause of action, no evidence of nothing, because they do it all the time. That's how I tend to help a lot of my friends that get caught up in these really stupid arrest things. I mean, if you're out there robbing grocery stores and liquor stores, well, then you're in trouble, okay? I can't help you with that, and plus, I don't know if I would, I mean, that's what the system's there for, is go after people with that stuff. But if you're just walking down the street doing nothing, some pig comes up, starts sticking with you, you're just not in a good mood, you tell him to get lost, now he's arresting you, playing all kinds of games, man, I want to slap that guy so bad and take his pension from him, have him live under a bridge then for that, That's how we're going to fix the system, is going after these people when they do dumb, stupid things the law does not allow them to do.
Absolutely. And there's plenty of provisions in the law. I mean, you can find what are the punishments in the law for public servants that do these things. Go look that up. That's actually one of the easier things to find. I found, like in IRS code, you find 7214. Tells you exactly. If they do A, B, C, D, or E, they're subject to a lot of penalties and potential criminal penalties.
And Title 18 comes into play all over the place, too, with what they're doing. There's multiple Title 18 issues that come into play there.
Exactly. 18 is full of great stuff.
Oh, I call Title 18 the candy store. I mean, it's wonderfully written, and it's amazing how much of it really applies to public servants and employees, things like that. That's more talked about more so than the average man or guy. And earlier, just to make a comment on what you said earlier about the commercial thing, probably 95% of most statutes, federal and state, are commercial statutes. The only part that really applies to the average man walking down the street would be the criminal code. The typical common law crimes. Rapes, murders, assaults, embezzlements, larcenies, things like that. That's really the only laws
that really. Somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah, you've done some damage, whether you've messed up with their finances or screwed with their property titles, like embezzlements and larceny type of situations, or if it's a physical type of thing. So.
And they'll apply 18 to you if you're not careful, but you got it backwards. It applies to them. And
everyone's equal under the law. That's how the law says that everyone's equal under the law. So they're just as guilty of them as if you and I were violating people in that manner. So that's okay, and that's why they're wonderful to use against them. That's what the criminal code's there for, is to go after anybody that violates these, laws. The common law has just been codified. The common law is still there. People will say, oh, common law. Well, you have to know how to invoke the common law, and that's through the statutory process. All the common law rules have been pretty much put into statutory form somewhere, okay? Just like a trespass.
And that's what I was talking about. I was talking about in the 1930s. That's kind of where they started making this transition. But they had to still leave it in there. They had to leave that remedy in there. We just got to know where to find it and how to read. It's there.
Yeah, it's there. It's either in the court rules somewhere or it's statutized,
Yeah.
So
that's what people understand.
Well, in other words, any type of prohibitions and writs of replevins and those kind of things have all been statutized here in Florida. They were originally common law type of rules, but they've just been codified. And you can find that, too, going to the Secretary of State, I think, and you can look at the common law rules before they did all that in the early 1900s. And that's just to make it easier and more uniform to where you could just mention the statute by number, and instead of have to spell out all the causes of actions in it. That way they can go look up the statutes to make it easier for the lawyers and people to write these, complaints and things, make them more simple, I guess was their idea behind it. But it works. It's a code pleading, whether you like it or not. You have to learn how to do code pleading and understand what that is.
Yes, you do. So, do you have any actual, cases you could kind of give us a description of that you've dealt with that have turned out pretty well, and can you give us an idea of what can be done based upon real world experience?
Well, just from code enforcement, mowing grass, sued them in small claims court. They paid $5,000 for it because the Orlando Charter makes it clear the ordinances only apply to city-owned leased property, which is the way it is everywhere, And when they came on that property under color of their charter, that was a violation of their charter, and a violation of the whole ideology of and they're trying to extort money out of you, and they trespassed on property and on stuff. So we threw that together at them in a civil rights case, and they paid, nice little chunk of change for that.
And then you did a civil rights case in small claims court?
No. A small claims court was done. We won it there. Then you went to federal court then and sued them on the civil rights process because you already had the evidence. In other words, I like to use this. Once again, strategy, understanding how the courts work, and you're really understanding how they work. And you need to understand that from A to Z before you go playing around in them. But anyhow, the point I'm making is, you can use I've used the state courts in the past just to create the evidence you needed to where you had pretty much a slam dunker in the federal court. So by using a small claims court, a case, replevins, if they were still in boats and automobiles, get to where the other side ain't answering it, they're not doing nothing. Then the judge and the state judge is protecting them down there. Now you throw all that in a nice big fat federal lawsuit to show this almost conspiracy to violate rights and how everyone's involved working in concert to protect this process that they did that obviously violated substantive rights. And that's the key to basically setting up a civil rights suit in a 42-1983 in district federal court. They've stolen automobiles and cars, and we've used the same process to go get nice settlements out of them for doing this stuff because it's illegal for them to be coming to your property taking the government's there to protect your property from people coming taking stuff, okay? And if they do, they have to have warrants and hearings, all kinds of things. The Constitution says no man should be deprived of property without due process of law, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
So when they violate that, which they do every minute of the day and get away with it because the average American is completely clueless to what his rights are.
Yep.
They have no idea what property rights are. They have no idea what property ownership is. They have no clue what that title of that property is really all about, what it means. And then they believe that, things like the tax collector can just create a tax deed, and sell your property off from underneath you without any ownership interest and no due process. So this is a joke what they do. And for people not to understand how you can prevail on that shows you how dumb Americans are. When I get people going, how'd you get that to work? Well, gee, man, they came and armed robbed this man's house with a bunch of phony paper and looted everything he owned, arrested him for trespassing at the house he has a legal title to, and then prosecuted him for it. And meanwhile, they got some other clown in his home looting all of his stuff, killing his pets, and destroying everything he owns without a day in court. There's no way you can lose that if you understand what your rights are. Mm-hmm. And the clowns downtown do a great job at documenting what they do, okay? Because they act like they're really doing some process of law and government there. That's how stupid that the people that work, well, that's why they work for government. They're too damn dumb to go out and do something on their own, create something that'll make humanity work better, They're out there doing all this terrorism, municipal terrorism. It's a great word. I love that term. It's clearly what they're doing. And they believe that's their job, to screw with you when you cut your grass and water your grass, and they're claiming they're going to fine you where you park your cars. Say you like to park your car up in the grass or, off the side of the driveway. They'll be there screwing with you, putting these stupid stickers on them, threatening you. The government has no business at your property talking to you at all, pursuant to the case law in the Constitution. Nothing allows these people. When you look in the 1800s, most people could live their whole life and never had any interaction with government at all. They lived on their farms, raised their families, did their things, and never had any interaction with anyone from government their whole lives. Here we are today where everybody has interaction. Government's in your face one every minute of the day. From the day you're born, they're in there screwing with you somehow or another, to the driver's license issues and paying income taxes on your McDonald's job, which no one understands how that works. They can't explain how it works, so that's the part that really gets your attention when you start asking them, how does this work? How does the Internal Revenue Code have anything to do with my McDonald's job? How would I have a duty to pay a dime to you people because I got a job so I can eat and sleep and provide some place to live and buy clothes and all that neat stuff that when you go to the 501 section of the Internal Revenue Code makes it clear that if you were a corporation providing these things, that would be all exempt or be considered write-offs of your taxes. But you go to your home and do it, now it's taxed. That's impossible, right?
Right.
Like I say, government has no business.
That way, it's very logical.
The average man with a job and owns land, I don't care if it's a quarter acre with a 3-bedroom house, 2-car garage, or if it's 5,000 acres with a 50-bedroom mansion and 20-car garage and Olympic swimming pools and tennis courts and your own private motocross track. There's no way I would owe any government entity idiots a dime because I own that and use that for my own private use and enjoyment. That's a substantive right under every state constitution here in Florida. It's Article 1, Section 2. The right to own and protect property and procure property, even the right to acquire wealth. So they can't even tax me just because I have $1 million in the bank. They can't tax me on that, but they get away with it all the time because the average American's got no clue what taxation is and how it works pursuant to the Constitution and the written tax code. Nobody reads it.
Very good. Absolutely.
Well, that's the bottom line. When you wonder why your country's all messed up, you go look in the mirror, okay? You don't blame the politicians. If the Founding Fathers could come back here today and see how bad things were, they wouldn't be shooting the idiots in Washington. They'd be shooting us for sitting on our ass letting these people do this shit. 100 years ago, if people went and robbed someone's house and did stuff like that, your friends, your neighbors would get guns and go shoot these people down in the street for it. That's why people didn't do stuff like that 100 years ago. But now they get away with American people sitting on their butt, watch TV. Most of them are too damn dumb to own a gun and operate one, or they've been brainwashed into believing there's something evil about them. But when you look at why the Founding Fathers put the Second Amendment there, it was for this reason, to go after corrupt public officials that violate the hell out of people's rights. That's the main reason they put the Second Amendment there.
Well, they used to, the old days, they'd hang the judge around the back if he broke the law. I mean, there was plenty of that going on. So absolutely.
I was just watching some Randall Scott movie the other day, Western, where I guess the townspeople were all furied up, and the congressman came back to town, start stepping off the train, and all these people there with their shotguns telling them, get back on that train, get our water rights back, and they all cocked their guns. Well, he got back on that train, you know what I mean? And that's exactly what it's supposed to be all about. The people are supposed to be running things, and we're not. We're not doing nothing. We're not shooting the bastards, which we could easily do, and the court and the law would protect you for it. They're definitely guilty of sedition and insurrection, at least, not treason now, but definitely insurrection and probably sedition too. So the law allows you to protect yourself and protect your life and your rights and your liberty. And when you got some Nazi running around in government doing all this erroneous crap, then the the people ain't doing nothing about it, whether you either shoot them or sue them, It's like, say, Americans
we were told it from the very beginning. Benjamin Franklin came out of the Congress, and one of his most famous quotes was, they first of all, he asked for a benefit. They said, well, what have you given us? And he basically said, I've given you a republic if you can keep it. And he was talking to the individual, if you can keep it. In other words, giving you your freedom if you can keep it. And we're supposed to run as this constitutional republic. And, of course, we turned it into this complex democracy where we let lawyers start writing codes that support them. I heard Judge Napolitano a while back. He said this. He said, what you have today is a legal system designed by the legal community for the legal community. They've got 6 million statutes and codes, and what they're doing, and this is the words he used, they're creating an ever-increasing circle of commerce for themselves. That was a great way to put what's happening.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would completely agree with that, though. When I look at the laws, I've never found an unconstitutional law. Okay, I found a misapplication or an unconstitutional application of the law, but I found all the laws to be perfectly well written. And
no, I'm not saying they're not written well, but they're creating more and more of them to the degree that they just try to overwhelm the system. And the average person can't keep up with all that, but they can do enough to find what applies to them.
I don't think the average person has to keep up with that. You just have to know that what areas of the law that you need to work, and you work with that. The law is like that. It's like airplanes. Just because you like to fly 747s don't mean you have to know everything about every airplane ever made. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
As long as you know the 747, you're covered, and probably if you can do that, you can probably be okay with 767s and some of the other airplanes of that. But you'll find out a guy who can fly a 747 with the back of in his sleep, gets in a Cessna, he's lost, okay? Because the cockpit, the whole ideology of the flight's completely different, but but just because he has an understanding of flight dynamics, he'll figure it out probably. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I'm just trying to point out.
And that's sort of the same way you look at the law. You don't have to know every bit of it, but you need to know how to find what you're looking for, how to do legal research, and how to know where to go or where to, just like anybody else. If you work in a store, you know where all the stuff's at. Some guy goes, where's the hardware? Well, that's back over here, Where's the clothes? Oh, that's over there, But you just know where everything is. Doesn't mean you have to know everything in the store, though, but just at least know where it's basically at. Then you can go and do a more finer, detailed search for what it is you need in order to do whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah, sometimes you can simply find what you need in the annotated statutes. It's as simple as just finding the actual summary of the case laws. Start there.
Yeah, and all states have usually a state administrative code, like here in Florida's Florida Administrative Code. So usually between that and the statutes and the Constitution and a lot of the case law, there's usually, like I said, the annotated stuff. But the neat thing about the annotated stuff, sometimes you'll find a case there and you'll read that, and they'll talk about 4 or 5 other cases based in your state on the same topic, and you'll find out most of those cases are better than the case that you originally went to, So now you got 5 or 6 cases talking about, what an ad valorem tax is or something, to where you can prove not only the federal court in your federal complaint that not only does the state agree with you that this is what it's all about, and that it's violating your rights, and then you also have a federal case law that basically says the same thing. Usually can find the two, There'll be the feds will say the same thing as the state law is usually going to say the state appellate courts or Supreme Courts. So where it's not too tough to put together pretty much a well laid out paper, whether it's a complaint or a motion, a brief, or whatever you're needing in order to make a legal point to, like I say, set the record up for an appeal in the trial court, to where you have appealable issues and things that you can bring up to there to make it clear that the court completely, flew the coop,
Yeah, well, I think that Dr. Graves puts it pretty well, where he talks about you have to move the court, you've got to direct things, you've got to make your objections, which is you're setting up for appeal. If you don't make objections, you're screwed. And if you don't participate, you're screwed. But the biggest thing I think what he says is you have to make such a strong case with enough appealable issues that you just might get lucky, and that lower court might look at it and say, I don't like to get overturned. We're going with this guy. On the other hand, if you're not successful, and then because I hear from people all the time, well, I objected and they just moved on. Well, objection noted, move on. You got to that's part of the game. You're setting up your appeal and trying to set up enough appealable issues that maybe you'll get your ruling. And if you don't, you still got appeals. Okay? So that's how you have to think through these processes.
Well, that's why you have to be up on strategy. And like you say, if the other side files a motion, you don't ever want to do a hearing on it. That's up to them. The moving party has to do all that. So you don't want to be doing their job for them, which is something he brings up too, I'm pretty sure, in his case.
He does.
You don't want to do that. So, you have to know when. If they do crap, file some stupid motion to dismiss, you need to respond to it on paper fairly timely and show how they're motion is deficient or frivolous or just doesn't meet the elements of the motion to dismiss, which isn't usually hard to do if you understand the elements of your case, because usually these guys never do it right. They're really bad at it, so
it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. When you see some of the motions in the responses, you go, are you kidding? They're actually going to use this? Seriously? Just make a bunch of debatable issues? I mean, just, cite a bunch of garbage, and they don't actually cite any case law to back it up. Or if they do, it's some kind of lowercase case law that's been overridden by appeals.
Or it's completely out of context with the case that they're trying to use it in.
Yeah. And if you don't think you can do this, you can look at these sometimes and slow down and read it and say, wait a minute, if something in your brain is telling you it doesn't make sense, it's because you've got a subconscious brain that'll help you out if you just listen to it. And then go out and get that information.
Well, that's the way I look at it. If it doesn't make sense, chances are something's wrong with it. But that's assuming you have common sense to realize it first,
Well, that's true. And a lot of people, unfortunately and understandably, don't. But, you're not going to get good at this if you don't practice. You're not going to get good at tennis if you don't practice, or golf. Well, wait a minute. I've been playing golf my whole life. I've never gotten good. Strike that. But if you don't play, something, you can practice at it, you're just not going to get better. And you think, well, that's not important. I've got, soccer practice, and I got the Dances with the Stars to watch, and I got this and I got that. Well, okay, then be happy where you're at, because you're not growing.
Yeah.
If you don't stretch yourself, you're not going to move.
Well, it's just having your priorities right, that's all. So, either protecting your rights is more important than, watching Dancing with the Stars. That's all. You just have to have your priorities right. That's how I look at it. I mean, like I said, this was just something I had an interest in. It was just merely a hobby through the 90s. As I got in my early 30s, I guess, I really started paying late 20s, early 30s, started paying attention to it. And, just like I say, listening, keeping my ears open. I had the C-band satellite dish stuff, and that's how I found guys like, some of the people we've talked about that we know, and that's how I met them back in the late 90s, early 2000s. They could give out an email address, you email back and forth, next thing you're calling the phone, and now you're talking to, people that understand the law in a way that makes sense to you, that from what you're reading, and then you have people you can batter, what do you want to call it, strategies and theory back and forth a little bit, which is nice to have that. It's nice when you could talk to somebody about, hey, I need to file this case. Should I attack it in this form or this form? And should I do something in the state court first, maybe, which you can do, state civil rights action or a tort action there. Maybe create evidence out of that to where then you file that in the federal case, and sometimes I've filed in federal case first and then also filed a case in the state court too, going after the same people under the same issues. You can do that,
Yeah.
And that just puts pressure on them, to where they have to make some moves because they can't answer. They can't put any law on the table that proves that what they did didn't violate rights, and that's what they have to do in order to prevail.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's many ways to get at it. I mean, we in one of our classes we do on mortgages, first thing we tell them to do is we set it up to be able to send them a bill to bring them to small claims court on, just for failing to respond to a QWR. And that all we're doing that for is not to necessarily win the mortgage case, but to establish that they can't bring a proper claim, and they've been stepping on our rights the whole time. But then we go to federal court for a quiet title action against the title. That's the way to set it up. Build up to that. And I think that's kind of the same mentality. Now, in your situation you're talking about, maybe let's say it's a tax issue, a property tax issue, they've got to first establish some kind of record administratively. That's what the Administrative Procedures Acts are for. And you start building your evidence in your case from there, and then start researching, looking for what the case law might say about that issue, because you need to, of course, know what you're going to argue about. That holds them accountable, and that's where your best chance of winning is digging and digging. And you have some specific resources we've talked about that you like to look into. Maybe you could just kind of slowly rattle off a couple of those so they could write down some good resources to start getting their hands on. Yeah. And of course, we can show them. They can probably email you after the call and be able to get a list or something like that. But I'd like you to hear you just kind of list off some of the resources you like to use and that you have access to. And I think you can even help them get access to some of those things.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine that has some discs that he's put together that has basically the legal resource things, the legal encyclopedia. American jurisprudence is on it, and it's excellent. I mean, I'd probably give that 80% of my working knowledge of the law. I mean, it's like if you wanted to be a history teacher, you'd have to have the world encyclopedias around, so at least you can come up with some things to teach or test on, or maybe one of the students ask a question. What happened on December 7th, 1941? You just go to look it up, then. You don't have to go ask around or go run to some library someplace and do it. You got it right there, probably in the classroom, and you can just go look it up. And that's kind of what you need to be able to do. That's what the lawyers do. Their paralegals usually do most of that for them, though. They have paralegals and legal researchers that do most of the footwork for them. Then all they do is have to take that work and then paste it into a motion or whatever it is they're doing, a complaint possibly, or maybe a response to some motions or something, and just learning how to do that. And he's got a disc, an audio, not an audio, it's a video of how to do legal research. It's a law professor back in basically the early 90s. It was on a VHS tape when I first got it way back, and he just did a really great job to where you don't spend all this time looking for stuff. You know where to go to find certain things you need: slip laws, session laws, legislative enactment certifications, and things like that you would want to probably look through to do the legal research on the statutes that are being used, so you can prove to the other side that these people are clearly way beyond the whole ideology of what they're supposed to be doing. And that's really the whole goal. It's no different than me telling you I'm Elvis Presley or something. Okay, right away we're going, that's crap, okay? Elvis died back in the 70s, and Elvis would be 80-something years old. I'm only 56 years old, but right away I could put together enough evidence to prove to a bunch of 17-year-olds that this guy in Florida is not Elvis Presley. And your goal is to do the exact same thing with whatever the issue is, whether it's the tax idiots or the code morons or traffic issues maybe even, and all that. That's kind of where you need to be able to go with it, to show that the system is not doing what it's supposed to do. It's going way beyond what it's supposed to do, and the byproduct is rights are being violated. That's why I like using the civil rights suit. You can usually put that together in such a way that the other side, meaning the state, county, or city attorneys or whoever they get, cannot frame up a answer based in law, okay, and a defense. It's a stance of defense of how they're not violating your rights by doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I love that approach. I think that's a really good target for a lot of people to be thinking about.
Well, that's the
system. Researching this stuff. You can
find that is the court systems. That is what the adversary system is all about.
Yeah,
always has been. Whether it's a land dispute, the old story, I think this is my property, it's my property, okay, they get out the plats and they get out all the other stuff and get the surveyors out there, and we try to figure out exactly where the property line is and come up with a happy median. And once again, both sides have to put up what evidence that they have to lead them to believe that their land goes on. It's something as simple as that, and the judge can only rule off the evidence he has before him. It can't be his opinion. It can't be based off his discretion. It has to be clearly what evidence he has in front of him to make a ruling. And those are things, once again, if he goes beyond that, that's an appealable issue then, because there was no facts and evidence to support the ruling, right?
It's a fairly simple set of rules. If you can just nail down to what you just said, you got your foundation. Now go just support it. And I think that's a lot of people try to make it too. There's work involved, but it's not overly complicated from a diagram standpoint. You can follow it. And that's another thing I think Graves nails.
I think so. I mean, but then again, I come from a technical background. We're reading, assembly manuals and teardown manuals and, things like that, flight manuals and stuff all come into play, to where you kind of have to understand how to put these steps in play, because if you miss something, you're going to have a problem, So you get...
but from an outline, but if you have an outline, you know where to look next, at least. At least you're following
the outline's usually going to be in the court rules and whatever procedure that you're trying to push forward. Whether it's a replevin or whether it's just a civil rights case, or even if it's a criminal prosecution. Do you have the evidence of mens rea, corpus delicti, and intent? Those are the things. There has to be at least some evidence on face of the record before the court can even have jurisdiction. And that's where jurisdiction comes from, is the court has the elements. You can't give them jurisdiction. Either they have it legally or they don't. So you don't really have to question that until you can prove pretty much that, the prosecutor doesn't have the elements of a crime. So therefore the court would not have jurisdiction.
They'll proceed until you start asking that question. I mean, they're just going to go forward and then presume they have it if you don't raise those issues. That's a big issue, what you just said on criminal matters.
Well, once again, if you look at the criminal rules of court, in most every state, there's usually wonderful things that can be done within just days after the arrest. There's motions for adversary hearings you can do. There's if they don't file charges within like 28, 30 days, there's motions that can be filed then. There's some kind of hearings and things on it. There's all kinds of things you can do long before the arraignment. 3.190C4 is a great motion to dismiss that you can do here in Florida in a criminal case that requires the prosecutor to have to file a traverse, and he has to sign under penalties of perjury, laying out and including all the evidence he has that he believes he has a good case and therefore his prosecution is not frivolous. And if they can't do that, then they have to dismiss the case. But those are things you can do before even the arraignment happens, and most lawyers never do this stuff. They just do a simple waive the reading of the arraignment, you enter a plea not guilty, do a general discovery paper just to get whatever the cops got, and start looking at it. And all these neat things he could have done within the first 4 or 5 weeks, they just completely skip, because that's how he was taught to do it.
Yeah. Those are big things.
It is. That's why Graves is kind of on the money. I like his course. It'd be nice if he did something a little more extensive into more higher forms of litigation, but what he does is pretty much a kindergarten, what you consider an elementary, but it gives you the basic understanding of what the anatomy of a court case is. A complaint's got to be filed, there's got to be an answer, And if there's some undisputed issues, then through discovery things, you can try to iron them out, get the evidence you need to, move your case forward to the conclusion that you're trying to get out of it. And that's what lawyers are. Some are good at, some aren't. Some have weird ways of going about that, you might say. But then again, if your lawyer starts doing stupid stuff, start filing bar grievances on them. When the judge is out of place, make sure to make a record with cannabis complaints. They hate that. It screws with their malpractice insurance so bad, If you want to get rid of a judge, screw doing a motion to disqualify him. File 4 or 5 good cannabis complaints on legitimate issues. Even it could be little stupid stuff, but as long as you can prove that it did happen, you're covered. And I guarantee you that guy won't be your judge in a couple of weeks later. He'll want the hell out of there, because if he gets another cannabis complaint on him, they're going to drop his malpractice insurance. And if he loses malpractice insurance, he can't be a judge. Chief judge will have to take him off the bench, just like being a truck driver. And you get a couple DUIs and a few accidents, the insurance company's going to be telling your boss, man, get that guy out of the truck. We're not going to insure you if he's in the truck, and he's going to have to take you out of the truck, because he's not going to, put his $1 million business in jeopardy over letting you drive a truck for your $20 an hour job. You know what I mean?
No.
So that's pretty much the same way it works across the board, So once you understand how the system works, you know what buttons to push and how to get them to do what you need them to do. And, the big key is to be a bigger asshole than them. That's really the key to this, And if you do that well, you will prevail. Just
find something good and go with it. You got, obviously being passive is what's going to kill you. Being on defense, just staying there and just following their procedures without even bringing up any of these issues is where you're going to get screwed every time.
Well, chances are you're not even following their procedures. You have no idea what they're doing. You've got no clue what to do. That's the average guy. That's why these foreclosure things went so well for them in the early days. The average homeowner doesn't know anything about court processes or foreclosures, and he couldn't hire a lawyer. If he could hire a lawyer, you'd probably be making the mortgage payment. So the banks already know they got you kind of by the gonad, so to speak, and they're going to have you in there not doing anything, not bringing up any credible issues to shut down their foreclosure. You're going to be in there whapping your jaws with a bunch of junk that doesn't mean anything, and you're going to lose, and next thing you know, you're going to be out on the street, and the bank's going to take the house and sell it again and keep it rolling. That's what they like to do, just turn them over and keep the money coming in off every property. That's what the banks are basically doing at this time with this, and I guess all power to them, huh?
Well, it's a very profitable business when you have nothing at risk and you can collect properties while you're doing it. It's not a bad business.
Well, and that's okay. So what's the old saying? The best idiot you can have is one that thinks he's educated, and that's pretty much what we have in America is a bunch of educated idiots who live in a country with no clue what it's all about, no idea what law is, no clue what rights are, no idea how the courts work, like I said, no clue what taxation is, no idea what the traffic code's all about. They're just completely stupid to all of it, and like I say, want to know why they're being, screwed at every end. You're either getting tickets for stupid, outrageous money or tax crap coming at you. Code morons are messing with you, threatening to lien your property and foreclose on it and take your home from you so they can collect their money on their liens. I mean, all the stuff that makes no sense at all in land of the free and home of the brave, does it?
No, it's just organized extortion, and we just go right along with it. See, a long time ago, again, during that same time, Al Capone and his army essentially took over the law. They figured out, hey, we can use this to our advantage. As long as these people don't know, let's just keep paying the VIG.
Well, I I like the better examples, like right after the Columbus kind of thing, where the Europeans are coming now over here with the Indians and stuff, and they would play games with the Indians a little bit, saying, hey, our God's better than your God, and to prove it, and 3 nights from now, the moon will disappear in the sky, because they at that time, the Europeans were pretty good with astrology, and they could almost predict certain eclipses, so they use that in their favor to get the Indians to go their way, because the Indians didn't know anything about astrology. They didn't know you could predict an eclipse, but when you say in 3 moons from now, I'll cover the sun in the middle of the night, or the moon in the middle of the night thing, and it happens, now these Indians believe your God is better than theirs, so now they're going to go your way, and that's sort of how I like it. Goes right back to the blonde girl at the poker table, I guess, where the American people sit today. They're just completely clueless, just go along with what all the other monkeys do, and no one's telling them not to do it, so it must be okay, and that's all they got. That's all they can do. So until the people fix the problem, which is how the only way we're going to do it, the people have to do it, and it's all local. If you can get just your county working pursuant to your state constitution, the statutes, and their city and county charters, you would have a wonderful system of government. No one would be messing with you unless you're really, really, really doing something wrong, and everyone would, be free. And then that would hopefully trickle to the next county, and that's how you're going to do it. One house at a time, one street at a time, one neighborhood, then the city, then the county, then multiple counties, and then the whole state. And if you can get your county working, you don't have to care what the idiots in Washington do. Will not affect you, or anything that happens in the capital of the state will not really technically affect you if the system is working the way it's written on paper.
Unless, of course, they're coming in from that federal jurisdiction trying to infringe upon you, which they do as well. So you got to know how to handle that.
Constitutionally, the feds don't have any jurisdiction in the states like that.
That's
right.
If
they do, they have to go through certain, sources. They have to go through the sheriffs and things and go that direction with it, which they bypass. They got these sheriffs now who just pretty much kiss the feds' butts, They're just a bunch of little wimps. The sheriffs have no idea that they are pretty much the leading law enforcement of this county, and anything that comes in there from outside the county has to go through him first before they make any moves in the county.
That's
like I said, if that was being enforced properly, we wouldn't have most of the problems we're having with these outside entities that come into the states and the counties and start drug enforcement morons and ATF idiots, and almost like Ron Paul said, if we followed the Constitution, we wouldn't have any of those alphabetical agencies. The budget would be down to nothing. The feds wouldn't be meddling in our school systems and screwing with our kids and our homes and the things that they do if we were sticking to the Constitution the way it's written, but nobody's reading it. That's the way I found, and I test that all the time. I have a lot of fun with cops. I'll walk into the Denny's or something like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'll be like, hey, my buddies, or maybe my wife, and I'll like, my girlfriend, my date here. We're riding down in our car, and then there's some part in the law says they have to bring you to court before they can take things from you. What's it called? And she'll go, oh, due process. Yeah, that's it, due process. Isn't there something in the law that says that? And right away these cops will be going, well, yeah, well, okay, well, where is it? Don't you know? And right now they're jumping on their laptops and getting their little iPhones out trying to look up against the state constitution, And I'm like, hang on a minute. Aren't you guys like law enforcement? Didn't you take oaths to all this stuff? Aren't you supposed to know this? I mean, why do you have to look it up? And and they're like, those of course. Then they start getting a little picky at you. What do you want? I was like, well, I thought you were law enforcement. I thought you knew the answer to this question. I mean, this made sense, I guess. Sorry, we bothered you. We thought you knew what the law was. So I prove all the time that these idiots that call themselves law enforcement wouldn't know law was climbing out of their butt. You know what I mean? They're just out there doing what they're trained to do, what they're told to do, and they believe that's their job, and they're going to do what they're told to do until someone tells them not to do it. And they don't listen to us. It's like when people I get will go, I'm going to go talk to my property appraiser and get my home tax rolls. Well, good luck with that. They're not going to pay any attention to you. They're taught not to listen to you. You're just a people. What would you know about your rights in the law, Only their bosses know, and that's kind of the way they play it out, which is okay with me. Like I say, it just means you got a nice little civil rights suit with a couple players, and you get to have some fun with them for them to prove how they had the authority constitutionally and statutorily to do what they did the way they went about it. And meanwhile, you've already proven that they had no authority to do it, and if they did, they still did it wrong, So that's usually how I can set these things up in such a way that you get the average homeless guy under a bridge to understand what you're talking about.
Yeah,
as long as you can write paperwork in that way to where the average guy, you're still based in law, you're still talking about statutory process, but you just try to simplify it to where you can give it to a 17, 18-year-old, or well, maybe even younger, 12-year-old, and he'll still understand what your issues are. So if he can read your complaint in your paper and say, well, you think your rights were violated when they did this. If you can get that response from the guy that reads your complaint, then you got it. You got what your jury needs. The judge and the lawyers can't claim they don't know what you're talking about, so you're pretty well covered then if you can get that kind of response from someone that can read your paperwork, and right away they're able to just digest it and come right up with a couple word little summary of what your issue is and why it's there. So that's kind of the art to writing the complaints or motions or anything else you're doing. You don't want to get too overly legal. You just want to keep the law that you need in it, and try to keep it in a way that where any idiot that reads it can pretty much understand what your beef is with what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. You don't want to bore the judge. You want to give him something quick and easy that he can look at and go,
Well, once again, that's not the way to look at it. The judge has really nothing much to do with your case at all. When you file a case, I look at a court case as like a football game. The judge is just a referee. He's just there to blow the whistle and either sustain or deny objections, maybe things like that. Or if you have a problem with the way the process is going in the court rules, then the judge is the guy you go to and say, hey, the rule says we have to have this and this. They ain't done that yet, so that means we ain't done it right? And see if he agrees, fine. If not, then that's, of course, is an appealable issue. You write up a motion for more defined statement or a rehearing or something to bring up the problems you had there, so you are making a written record then in the court somehow for the appeal, and go on to the next thing. Don't worry about it. Don't get upset about it. Don't care what they do. Just make sure you've made a great appealable record, and you will prevail.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, you'll go in there just to fight the judge. You're going to lose because he's not the enemy, actually.
Yeah, he's not. He might
to your advantage.
Well, he might become, he could become, but that's like I say, that's all you're there to do is just make a record. If he does something that he shouldn't do, or he sustains an objection that he should have overruled, things like that, then you just have to make some type of written record of it through whatever, motions for rehearings, motion for more defined statements, I'm sure there's some other things you could probably throw out there to set up a record or put something where you need an answer from the court of why this went the way it went. Perfect example, just since you guys like little stories real fast, I had a guy about 5 years ago. He got arrested on some stupid misdemeanors. Here in Florida, they have 90 days to basically bring you to court or to trial in 90 days. They didn't arraign him until the 85th day. Finally, the 92nd day came along. We filed our notice of expiration of speedy trial pursuant to the court rules, and the judge just ignored it. And about 2 weeks later, he had a hearing on some other matter in the case, and he asked, hey, what about my motion to, notice of expiration? They go, well, we already had that hearing. So when did we have the hearing? He goes, then the judge said, well, we had the hearing the day you filed. He goes, well, the rule says you have to do it 5 days after it's filed. So how do you do it on the day it was filed, and where's the record that it was filed? Well, she just blew him off and ignored him. So I did an interlocutory appeal to the 5th District Court of Appeals, which is our Florida, appellate district that we're in, and asked him, hey, here's what the rule says. It says that when you file this notice, they have to have a hearing in 5 days and go through this part out of the J section where the prosecutor has to pretty much stand up and show that it's either the defendant's fault, co-defendant's fault, or the attorney's fault for the other side, something like that. If he can't do that, then the judge immediately has to set trial for 10 days from that date. And then the rule also says that they don't bring you to trial within 15 days of the notice of expiration of speedy trial. They have to discharge the case. So I threw that to the 5th District Court of Appeals. They wrote up a nice little thing saying, yep, that's exactly what the rule means, and they use their own little case law saying that where they stated that, yeah, if it isn't done in 15 days, they ain't brought you to court, then initiated the trial, then you're done. They have to do the case. And so I took that, filed it in the county court here where the misdemeanor was at. As soon as the judge Simpson saw that, 2 days later, all of a sudden there's this notice of dismissal of the case and went down because they knew then that if they prosecuted him for the stupid crime that he would just get it overturned because his rights to speedy trial were violated all over the place. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like the court didn't know it. He made it real clear verbally in a hearing, and, of course, you had the notice of expiration of speedy trial filed bigger than light, no record of any 5-day hearings. Here we are 2 weeks past the time, and they're still doing the trial when the case law and the court rule made it clear that they would have to discharge it within 15 days. So those are the kind of things you can get to just get rid of a stupid criminal case, and just because these people get away with it all the time, okay? Lawyers aren't going to be that aggressive. And most of the time, if you're like this guy, you're going to have a public defender who does zero. He makes no record, files hardly nothing at all in the case whatsoever the whole time,
Well, I tell people getting a public defender is a better move than hiring an attorney only for this reason, because he's not going to do enough. And if you keep making demands, it's going to just stall this thing out until you get past that expiration period, and that's your move after that. But you have to control. Just like you said, you're going to have an attorney. You better control him. And even though they won't do everything you want them to do, they may just fall right into your hands if they get you past that speedy trial time. You've got a great motion that is a non-discretionary rule. Once it happens, it happens. Your case should get dismissed, or they're violating that right, and you have an appealable issue. That's how I see it.
Well, that's pretty much the way it's set up on paper to work, and like I say, understanding what appealable issues are, rights violations, and any court rule violations of any kind are always things that the appeals court will definitely be able to work with, and you have case law that supports it too, where you're showing that even that particular appeals court has ruled that, yeah, if this goes that way, you got no choice but to, scratch it off or remand it back or completely dismiss it altogether, whatever, So that's why being decent with the legal research and reading lots of cases on court processes and things, so they're usually really good. Like I say, we have a wonderful system of law. The jurisprudence is awesome, when you read through that, whether it's your state jurisprudence or just the federal stuff, whether it's corpus juris secundum, which is mainly done by the Bar Association, so they tend to be more biased. The American jurisprudence is probably the only one that seems they take from all sorts of different sources, so that's what makes it a little bit more refined and a little, I think a little more clear, direct to what the theory behind that law is all about, or what this right is all about, or whatever it is you're trying to set up for the court. So being able to have access to that and 24/7 is the way to do it, and that's why with these little disc set that my friend put together was done back years ago, because people are asking me, hey, how do I learn the law the way you learned it? And it's like, well, same thing I tell people musically. Say, hey, I like the way you play. How do I play like that? Listen to what I listen to, Same thing legally. Read what I read. And the jurisprudence was a really big eye-opener, having access to that 24/7, and the litigation manuals and all these other neat little just books that are written by legal professionals that the lawyers are supposed to be reading these things that looks. And then, of course, the statutes at large, internal revenue codes, just having all the litigation guides, interrogatory manuals, forms books, and things of how to, frame up subpoena ducus tecums, and know how to do all that, notice for hearings, and how to write them up and all. Not that they're real hard or anything, but just knowing how to do it, knowing when you need them, and knowing that. And usually the paralegal manuals tend to give a lot of that information. They'll tell you exactly what you have to file, not only the complaint, but you might have to do some show cause stuff. Might have to also be filed along with the complaint that the clerk will stamp things. So that's where the litigation manuals come in, so you know that you're filing your case properly, and that you have given the clerk all the paperwork they need and things, and knowing exactly what you need to do so you don't overdo it, but then again you don't want to underdo it, so it's just knowing what the hell you're doing. That's really all it's all about,
Yeah, and I always remind people, even if just wherever you're at in your case, does that court have a set of local rules and a set of directions? You'd be surprised how often people don't even bother to look at that. And they tell you right there sometimes just, how to get started and where to go and, what is the procedure. Because you can get blown out on a procedure. You can lose your case over just not following basic procedures, and it's all laid out for you. It's not complicated.
And you can win your case when they don't follow. Another good example. I was helping a friend of mine with some friends of his that had a animal control case, and so they had their little hunky-dunk court thing going on, and the judge in the case was letting this woman, who was the code idiot's their prime witness, I guess, who only spoke French, and they couldn't speak any English. So the judge was going to let the sister, or not sister, but I think daughter-in-law or something, she spoke French and English, and let her do the interpretations. Well, the court rules, 14.100, made it clear in the Florida Rules of Court that any interpreters have to be official interpreters initiated by the courts and certified by them. They can't just let the brother-in-law or somebody do it, and that would also be a problem in an appeal, that if you let that happen, that would be a problem there too. So anyhow, we raised our objections to it, and you could tell the judge and the prosecutor, the county prosecutor, Chu, that was his last name, had no idea. We had the prosecutor came over to our table to look over our shoulders, because we're the only ones in the courtroom with a court rule book. And so you could tell he's reading the rule, and the judge, she's scrambling on her laptop, I guess, trying to find the court rules, because she don't have them either, And so they didn't know that. That's where I'm going with this, And they had no idea that they weren't supposed to be, that they've been getting away with it for so long, no one's ever questioned them on it. They just, they never knew. But as soon as we did that, 2 days later, she said at the end of the hearing, like, okay, we're going to have to stop this from now. We'll notify you of our decision here by mail. And I think 3 days later, an order dismissing this, animal control case was submitted by the judge, because we pretty much impeached their only witness, And so it's, like I say, these are just neat little things you almost do just out of not even really thinking, just that I knew the rule was there, and the minute they started saying, hey, okay, yeah, the sister-in-law or whatever the hell she was, daughter-in-law or something, can do the translations, and since she knows, because she's taking note to tell the truth. Well, I don't care about that. I don't know if her French is on line. She may misinterpret things. How do I know that? And then how do I have a remedy if she's misinterpreting it, And so I go, you can see right away this Judge Simpson, she was completely flattered by this, because she was totally embarrassed too, and you knew nobody. And so I'm just saying, just little things like that was enough to just shut their whole thing down, just because I knew one rule.
Yeah, amazing how good that can be. Absolutely. I know a lot of people are saying, well, right now we're definitely giving them a fire hose of information. But let's just bring it down to the simplest things. Like we said, we have this, how to win a lawsuit without a lawyer. urlaw.org/JD is a link on where you get your hands on that and study that. That's a good foundational starting point. But it's also going to talk a lot about your necessity for doing research, looking up local rules, looking up procedures, and you have that sort of a kit of information that is readily available We'll give you guys all a link to his email address in our premium member area where the audio replay will occur for this. And you can just email him and say, hey, what do you have available? What can I get in terms of a package of information together? We won't get into pricing and different options here. That's a little bit much for this call, but you can certainly answer questions that they might have about that, correct?
Yeah. I'll usually shoot you a phone number once you email me, and you call me, and then I'll kind of just give you the lowdown of what's there. A lot of stuff is in there that you might say certain people really wouldn't be happy, with. So that's why it's sort of done like a drug deal, you might say,
Well, I need to stress, you're not in the business of selling this information. You're helping a friend out. That's what my understanding of what you're doing. You care enough about other people that you want to share this information, share your successes. You've got a lot of success stories, and I think you described basically you don't need the money because of your success stories. That's a good benefit people can get by winning lawsuits, and get focused on this as a procedure. Kind of throw out some of the junk. I think you'll find there's a lot of remedy in the law, and I just think that's what people should just basically be sure they start doing. As we've said for years, start with that foundation, and then, the people that come back to me with success stories aren't necessarily the ones that keep constantly asking me, what do I do next? What do I do next? And I go, I don't know. I don't know any of your facts. I don't know your information. I don't know your state law, your state rules. But you need to follow your procedures, and you need to keep studying. You keep researching and looking. The ones that do some research and study get the results. It's just that simple. There's no silver bullet here, but we're just a good way to help you stay in bounds. That's what our goal is, and help you move in the right direction. But ultimately, the guys that have success are the ones that take the ball and run. You don't score a touchdown unless you take that ball across the goal line. And I can't do it for you. We can't do it for you. All we do is show you some things that have been done, but every situation is going to be unique, folks. You just can't. You want to. I know I'm going to get emails. Give me a template for this. Give me a template for that. And the only template I can give you is a 30,000-foot view outlined, like Dr. Graves' course does, for example, and those procedures. But after that, man, it's on you. So just be sure that that's how you start looking at things. And you won't get overwhelmed. I mean, it's going to be a lot of work, but if you stick with your roadmap, you'll find out what to do next. And sometimes it is a simple little issue that you can bring out and expose. And like I said, be the one asking the questions, not making the claims.
Well, like you said earlier, when Benjamin Franklin, I think some woman said, what kind of government did you give us? And he says, a republic, you can keep it. Not only did he say that, but he went on to make it clear that the only way it would work would be everybody would have to be deemed in the law. And I think for the first 100 years, it was sort of like that. I mean, not that every hillbilly understood court procedures, but you'll notice, like, even when you watch movies or The Godfather, the Robert Duvall character, he was a lawyer for the family. Big Valley, they had a lawyer in the family. All the families, big families, always sent one of their kids to law school so they could learn how to take care of the family business stuff. And that's, like I say, a lost trade today. The average man does zero to learn anything about the law to where he knows how to protect his rights and understand what he's supposed to be doing. And, of course, it's done that way by design. I'm pretty sure you can pretty much see it, if you ask me, just for the reason I said earlier. There's no TV shows talk about this, nothing. If you want to learn it, you have to go to Westlaw and spend, I don't know, 10, 15 grand on, legal encyclopedias and all the litigation manuals and all the things that most of the lawyers usually buy. And then you need to sign up for Westlaw and Verslaw accounts so you can do shepherdizings and other things like that to where, you're racking out, money all the big, and that's okay if you're a lawyer bringing in $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month probably. It's not a big deal to blow $1,000 or $2,000 a month on keeping your stuff together to where you're able to work your cases, but the average guy, really doesn't, even if you got the money, I mean, like I said, so that's kind of what this little gig was about that my friend has, is to sort of set it up to where you could kind of come up with these same things for like pennies on the dollar to where hopefully before I die, I'll know what it's all about to live in a constitutional republic before it happens, So I'm hoping we can fix that, and I believe we can. I believe if enough people, and you don't need a whole lot, I think if you just had a dozen or 10 people in every county suing the municipal corporations for the stupid things they do on a regular basis, I think within just a matter of a few short years, you would see them start changing how they do things and what they're doing. Because people, they're getting sued or paying out $1 billion a year in settlements to people to shut them up. Someone's going to say, hey, get them homes off the tax rolls, tell the code stay away from these people, tell them pigs to quit arresting people unless they're really doing something wrong. We're making a bunch of white trash rich here, so we got to stop it, So that's kind of the position I hope to see them in, and that's the only way we're going to get there is, like I say, and anytime you look through history and big change was made, it's usually a very small part of the population. Just look at the Revolutionary War, probably 13, 14 million people in the 13 colonies colonies, only about 400, 500,000 of them were actually out shooting at the British to do the do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So once again, if you took that same odds and put it into what we have now, and like I say, half a dozen people in every county of the United States suing the local idiots for these stupid things they're doing, and now they're going. They would, I think, within a short period of time, you'd see changes starting to happen because that's the only thing they're going to do. They're not going to be able to defend what they're doing, and then they take the chance of being shot down in the streets for this stuff, get the pitchforks out and go chase them and hang them from the light poles up and down Main Street. That's what they used to do back in the old days when people got out of control like that. That's how the new people then wouldn't do it. They'd see the bones hanging, oh, that's the last property appraiser, oh, that's the other sheriff, or, oh, yeah, that was them cops that did that to that little girl they're hanging up now, So they're going to not do this stuff because they know the people will do something about it one way or another, either sue them or kill them.
Well, and in summary, I think Thomas Jefferson also said, when the government fears the people, you have freedom. When the people fear the government, though, you have tyranny. It's just that simple. Are we going to make the choice to start taking a stand through the legal system and use it properly? A lot of people are defeatist. They think, oh, it can't be done. Oh, they're all criminal. They're all corrupt. Well, sometimes I think the people that I see ever have success, they simply take self-responsibility, take responsibility, and say, it's my fault. I need to be the one to correct this. And just like that story I talked about, this friend earlier that notified me, when she stopped fighting and started going on the offense, everything changed. They stopped harassing her and tasing her for filing papers and everything else. Because once that criminal complaint was in place, that was it. They just said, no, we don't want anything to do with you anymore. You figured it out.
Well, that's the way it's worked here, man. Code enforcement doesn't even come into this side of the neighborhood anymore. I mean, we've sued them so many times for doing all this stupid stuff, stealing cars and boats, and, got to the point where I know the code idiots are told not to go back in this part of the neighborhood no more because they know we know how to sue them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it works. And like you said, if you fear government, you have tyranny. And if the government fears the people, you have freedom. And they don't fear us because we're not even shooting at them, much less suing them. So what are they to be scared of, right?
Yeah, they just look at us. They walk in the room and we say, bah, bah, bah.
They got us all neutered here, no fight, taking the fight out of the men and out of the women, too. Like I said, 50, 100 years ago, most people would pick up their guns or they would at least be in somebody's face over some of the things that go on today. Now they just, oh, well, nothing we can do. I pulled the voting lever. That's all I can do, and that's all they believe they can do. They have no idea how to use the court systems, and the court systems were set up so the people could control their government. That's why the Founding Fathers put the system in play, and it works real well if you learn how to use it. And once again, the idiots in the system, remember, this is our law. This isn't their system. It's our system. This system of law written on paper belongs to the people. It's there for us to force our public servants to follow the law. And like I said, no one's doing that. Very, very few. 1 out of every 10, 20 million maybe might be doing it that I know of, And, but that's not enough at this point. That's why you're not going to see much of anything change. But you can fix it for yourself. You can get it where they leave you alone, leave your property, leave your family alone because they know you know how to sue them.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I know how to shoot them too, and they know that. So, that's why I think it works real well for us. They know we can do either one. If the courts fell us, then we'll go shoot, but if the courts work.
And obviously, we don't mean shoot in the physical sense. We mean shoot using their weapons against them. And
I don't even look at it as their weapons. I just look at it as us not manning the weapons. We're letting them take the weapons.
Actually, our weapons, correct. But I mean, the legal weapons that we have. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, listen, Steve. I know we've been on here a long time. I've asked you a lot of questions. Tried to reflect some of the questions people have had. I hopefully got some of that covered. I really enjoyed this, and hopefully maybe we'll do something again in the near future. But in the meantime, I hope you just have a great life and enjoy your success you've had in beating back the system and getting them to leave you alone and enjoy the fruits of those successes, which is your right to do. And hopefully more people will catch on, and we're going to continue putting that message out through our website and to our members and to try to keep people moving forward. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, together we can do this, and I hope that you will continue to stay on track. Again, if you want to get a little more information, get his contact information, you need to be a premium member. That helps support us when you become a premium member. That's what keeps us going to keep delivering this message. And then you can get some of that. You can ask them questions about getting that information. Some of those inexpensive resources that you're going to need. Of course, you have the self-help lawsuit course at urlaw.org/JD. That's our link to get over to that course. And, of course, the premium membership is urlaw.org/join. If you're already a free member, all you have to do is do an upgrade at the end rather than join. Don't create a new account. And those are the ways to get started. We're going to continue to talk about these subjects over the coming weeks. So I hope you all join us on the premium member calls. This is a free call, but we're going to just continue the discussion on those calls in the coming weeks. So, again, thank you, Steve, for being here. Is there any final parting thoughts you want to say before we go?
Yeah, man, we don't have to put up with this Nazi crap. That's all. You can go after these people, man, with the system that's been played to go after them with, and you have to be shrewd. You have to really understand what it is you're doing and what the issues are, and if you got that really well laid out in your head and can enforce it with the statutes, the Constitution, and the case law that supports it, man, and run it up the flagpole, you will prevail.
Thank you all for being here, and for those who are going to